How to build an aura. So powerful, it bends people to your will. Machiavelli's way. 500 years ago, a man who never held the highest office, never commanded armies, and never ruled a kingdom, wrote a book that would teach presidents, CEOs, and world leaders how to wield invisible power. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli, and today, I'm going to reveal his most guarded secrets about building an aura so magnetic, so commanding, that people will naturally bend to your will without you ever having to raise your voice or make a threat. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people walk into a room and immediately command respect, while others are completely ignored. You'll learn the 7 psychological principles that Machiavelli discovered centuries ago, and I'll show you exactly how to apply them in your daily life, whether you're in a boardroom, at a party, or even just ordering coffee. But first, let me tell you about the most powerful person I've ever met. If you want to become someone people naturally gravitate toward and respect, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because what you're about to learn will change how people see you forever. 3 years ago, I was at a corporate event with about 200 people. Typical networking scene. Everyone trying to impress everyone else. Loud conversations, business cards flying everywhere. Then he walked in. The room didn't go silent like in the movies, but something shifted. Conversations became quieter. People started glancing over. Within 10 minutes, there was literally a circle of people around this man, hanging on his every word. He wasn't the CEO, he wasn't famous. He wasn't even the best-dressed person there. But he had something that Machiavelli wrote about 500 years ago. An aura of power that was almost magnetic. I watched him for 2 hours, and I realized he was following principles that most people have never even heard of. That night, I went home and reread The Prince with fresh eyes. What I discovered changed everything about how I understand influence and power. Let's get one thing straight. Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't evil. That's Hollywood nonsense. He was a political philosopher living in Renaissance Italy, watching powerful families rise and fall, studying what made some leaders magnetic while others were forgotten. Machiavelli spent his life observing the most powerful people of his time. The Medici family, Cesare Borgia, Pope Alexander VI, he noticed patterns, certain behaviors, certain ways of carrying yourself, certain psychological principles that made people naturally defer to you. Here's what's fascinating. Modern psychology has proven that most of Machiavelli's observations were scientifically accurate. He was essentially doing behavioral psychology 400 years before it was invented. Today, I'm going to break down his most powerful insights into 7 practical principles. These aren't manipulation tactics. They're about developing genuine presence and commanding natural respect. Let's start with the foundation. Principle 1, the mystery factor. Principle number 1, strategic opacity, the power of mystery. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This isn't about being fake. It's about understanding that mystery creates magnetism. Think about the most captivating people you know. They don't tell you their entire life story in the first conversation. They reveal information strategically, keeping you curious, wanting to know more. Here's the psychology. When someone gives us all their information up front, our brain categorizes them and moves on. But when there are gaps in our knowledge, our brain stays engaged, trying to fill in the blanks. It's called the information gap theory, and it's incredibly powerful. So how do you apply this? 3 specific techniques. First, the strategic pause. Instead of immediately answering every question with a complete explanation, pause. Let there be a moment of anticipation, then give a thoughtful but not exhaustive answer. Example, someone asks what you do for work. Instead of launching into your entire job description, pause, smile slightly, and say something like, "I solve problems that most people think are impossible." Then let them ask the follow-up question. Second, the reveal technique. Share personal information in layers over time, not all at once. Each conversation should reveal something new about you, keeping people invested in getting to know you better. Third, the confident redirect. When someone asks something too personal too early, don't get defensive. Simply redirect with confidence. That's an interesting question. What made you think of that? So you maintain your boundaries while showing you're unshakable. Now here's the crucial balance. You're not being secretive or evasive. You're being selective. There's a difference between mystery and being weird. Mystery invites curiosity. Being weird creates confusion. The people with the most powerful auras understand this balance perfectly. Principle 2. Controlled emotional expression. Principle number 2. Emotional sovereignty. Mastering your inner state. Machiavelli observed that the most powerful leaders never let their emotions control their actions. But they weren't emotionless robots either. They had what he called sprezzatura, the art of making difficult things look effortless. Modern neuroscience shows us that when people see someone who's emotionally regulated under pressure, it triggers what psychologists call social proof. Our brains interpret emotional control as a sign of competence and leadership. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think this means suppressing emotions. That actually backfires. Suppressed emotions leak out in micro-expressions and body language, making you seem inauthentic or even threatening. The Machiavellian approach is different. It's about strategic emotional expression. You feel your emotions fully, but you choose when and how to express them for maximum impact. The anchor technique. Before any important interaction, take 30 seconds to mentally anchor yourself. Feel your feet on the ground, take 3 deep breaths, and remind yourself of your core values. This isn't New Age nonsense. It's activating your parasympathetic nervous system for optimal performance. Emotional contrast. When you do express emotion, make it count. If you're typically calm and measured, a moment of genuine passion becomes incredibly powerful. But if you're reactive all the time, your emotions lose all impact. The strategic vulnerability. Occasionally sharing a controlled moment of vulnerability, not your deepest fears, but a genuine human moment, creates powerful connection while maintaining your overall frame of strength. I once watched a CEO address his company after a major setback. Instead of pretending everything was fine or having an emotional breakdown, he said calmly, "This is disappointing, and I'm feeling the weight of it. But here's what we're going to do." That combination of acknowledged emotion with immediate forward momentum was incredibly powerful. But emotional control is just the foundation. The next principle is where things get really interesting. Principle 3, the power of calculated unpredictability. Principle number 3, strategic unpredictability. Keeping people mentally engaged. Machiavelli wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." But here's what most people miss. He wasn't talking about being scary. He was talking about being unpredictable enough that people pay attention. Human brains are pattern recognition machines. We're constantly trying to predict what people will do next. When someone is completely predictable, we stop paying attention to them. But when someone is strategically unpredictable, not chaotic, but surprising in purposeful ways, our brains stay engaged. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most powerful form of behavioral conditioning that exists. The unexpected excellence, occasionally, excel far beyond what people expect in random areas. Maybe you're known as the serious business person, but one day you show up with homemade cookies that are absolutely incredible. People remember that contrast. Conversational shifts. Master the art of unexpected but relevant conversation shifts. Instead of following predictable small talk patterns, introduce thought-provoking questions or observations that catch people off guard in a good way. The strategic no. Sometimes refuse things that people expect you to say yes to, and sometimes accept things they expect you to refuse. This keeps people from taking your responses for granted. Timing variations. If you usually respond to messages immediately, occasionally wait. If you're usually punctual to the minute, occasionally arrive slightly early or fashionably late. Small variations that break patterns without being inconsiderate. Here's the critical point. This isn't about being flaky or unreliable. Your core character and values should be rock solid. It's about being unpredictable in style, not in substance. People should never doubt your integrity, but they should never be quite sure what interesting thing you'll do next. I know a lawyer who's known for being extremely methodical and serious, but once a month he shows up to the office in a perfectly tailored bright purple suit. It's become legendary. People remember him not just as that good lawyer, but as that fascinating lawyer with the purple suits. Strategic unpredictability in action. The key is that each surprise should reveal a new dimension of your character, not contradict your core identity. Principle 4. Social positioning and alliance building. Principle number 4. Strategic alliance building, the art of social architecture. Machiavelli understood something that most people completely miss about power. It's not about being the strongest person in the room. It's about being the most strategically connected person in the room. He wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." This applies perfectly to relationship building. While most people wait until they need something to build relationships, people with powerful auras are constantly, quietly building their network of allies. Humans are tribal creatures. We instinctively look for social proof about who's important by watching who other important people associate with. When you're connected to influential people across different spheres, it creates what psychologists call status transfer. But here's the sophisticated part. You're not just collecting powerful friends, like trophies. You're creating genuine value for your network, which makes you genuinely valuable to know. The connector strategy. Become the person who introduces other people to each other. When you connect two people who benefit from knowing each other, both of them see you as valuable. You become the hub, not just a spoke. Cross-pollination. Build relationships across different industries, age groups, and social circles. The lawyer who knows artists. The businessman who knows academics. The entrepreneur who knows community leaders. This makes you uniquely interesting and resourceful. The long game. Help people when they don't need help and can't directly benefit you. This creates what Machiavelli called future obligations. Not in a manipulative way, but because humans naturally want to reciprocate kindness. Strategic visibility. Be seen at the right places with the right people, but not as a social climber. Attend events where you can add genuine value, not just where you want to be seen. I know someone who became one of the most connected people in our city, not by chasing VIPs, but by consistently hosting small dinner parties, where he'd invite interesting people from different worlds. A chef, a city councilman, an artist, a tech entrepreneur. People started seeing him as the guy who knew everyone worth knowing, which made everyone want to know him. Here's what Machiavelli really understood. Power isn't about domination. It's about becoming indispensable. When you're genuinely helpful to a wide network of people, you develop what he called necessary friends. People who support you not because they have to, but because it's in their interest to see you succeed. But all the social connections in the world won't help you if you don't understand the next principle, one that separates true leaders from wannabes. Principle 5, the art of strategic timing. Principle number 5, temporal mastery, the power of perfect timing. Machiavelli wrote about occasion, the art of seizing the perfect moment. He believed that fortune favors those who can read the timing of situations and act decisively when the moment is right. This isn't just about being opportunistic. It's about understanding that the same action can have completely different results, depending on when you execute it. Researchers have found that timing affects everything from decision-making to influence. There's actually a field called chronopsychology that studies how timing affects human behavior. The same request made at different times can have vastly different success rates. Level 1, personal timing, reading the room. This is about sensing the emotional and social dynamics in real time. When to speak up in a meeting, when to make a request, when to offer help, when to step back. People with powerful auras seem to have perfect instincts about this. The secret? They're constantly reading microsignals, body language, energy levels, conversational flow. They wait for what I call receptive moments, when people are most open to influence. Level 2, situational timing. Reading the moment. This is about understanding larger contexts, knowing when an organization is ready for change, when a market is ripe for disruption, when a relationship is ready for deeper commitment. Machiavelli called this understanding the quality of the times. Level 3, strategic timing. Creating the moment. This is the highest level, not just waiting for the right moment, but creating conditions where your moment becomes inevitable. Master-level players don't just react to timing, they shape it. The patience practice. Train yourself to pause before important communications. Ask, is this the right time for this person to receive this message? Often, waiting 24 hours can dramatically improve your results. Energy mapping pay. Attention to when different people in your life are most receptive. Some people are sharp in the morning, others come alive in the evening. Time your important conversations accordingly. The strategic delay. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Let situations develop. Let other people make their moves. Then respond from a position of better information. Momentum recognition. Learn to recognize when momentum is building around ideas, trends, or opportunities. The people who seem lucky are usually just better at timing their moves with natural momentum. Steve Jobs was a master of this. He didn't invent the smartphone, the tablet, or the MP3 player, but he had perfect timing about when the market was ready for elegant versions of these things. That timing, combined with execution, created the illusion that he could predict the future. Here's what Machiavelli really understood about timing. It's not just about when you act, it's about when you don't act. Knowing when to wait, when to watch, when to let others make their mistakes first. That patience, combined with decisive action at the right moment, creates an aura of almost supernatural judgment. Principle 6, controlled force and gentle power. Principle number 6, the iron fist in the velvet glove, controlled force. This is perhaps Machiavelli's most misunderstood concept. When he wrote about being both the lion and the fox, he wasn't advocating for aggression. He was describing the need to have strength that's controlled, force that's precise, and power that's exercised with surgical precision. People with truly powerful auras never seem to be trying hard, but there's an unmistakable strength underneath their gentleness. They remind you of what Teddy Roosevelt said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Humans are incredibly good at sensing authentic power versus performed power. Real strength doesn't need to prove itself constantly. When someone is genuinely confident in their abilities, they can afford to be gentle, patient, and kind. It's insecurity that makes people aggressive and dominating. Intellectual force. This is about having strong opinions that are well-reasoned, but expressing them in ways that invite dialogue rather than shut it down. You're not wishy-washy, but you're not bulldozing either. Example, instead of saying, "You're wrong about that," try, "I see it differently. And here's why." Same conviction, better delivery. Emotional force. This is about having strong emotional boundaries, without being cold or distant. You care deeply about things, but you don't let your caring make you manipulable or reactive. Physical force. This isn't about intimidation. It's about carrying yourself with quiet confidence. Good posture, steady eye contact, controlled gestures. Your body language should suggest capability without aggression. The strategic escalation. Know how to gradually increase pressure when necessary, but always start with the gentlest approach that might work. This shows both wisdom and restraint. Protective force. Be willing to stand up for others, especially those who can't defend themselves. Nothing builds respect faster than seeing someone use their power to protect rather than dominate. The disciplined response. When someone pushes your boundaries, respond with exactly the amount of force necessary to reestablish them. No more, no less. Overreactions destroy credibility. Underreactions invite more boundary pushing. Here's the paradox that Machiavelli understood perfectly. The more capable you are of force, the less you need to use it. When people sense that you could be formidable if necessary, they naturally treat you with more respect. But because you choose gentleness from a position of strength rather than weakness, that gentleness has impact. I once watched a CEO handle a hostile takeover attempt. Instead of getting angry or defensive, he calmly laid out exactly what would happen if the hostile bid continued, the legal challenges, the market consequences, the reputational damage. He never raised his voice, never made threats, but the quiet certainty in his presentation was absolutely devastating. The takeover attempt was withdrawn within a week. That's controlled force, devastating effectiveness delivered with complete calm. But there's one final principle that ties all of this together, the one that separates people who just seem powerful from people who actually change the world. Principle 7, the long-term vision. Principle number 7, temporal sovereignty, thinking in decades, not days. The final and most sophisticated principle that Machiavelli understood was this. Truly powerful people operate on different time horizons than everyone else. While most people are thinking about next week or next month, people with magnetic auras are thinking in terms of years and decades. This long-term thinking creates what I call temporal authority. When your perspective spans a longer time frame than the people around you, you naturally become the person they look to for guidance and direction. Humans are naturally short-term focused. It's a survival mechanism. When someone demonstrates the ability to think beyond immediate concerns and still make decisions that work out well over time, it signals exceptional intelligence and judgment. People instinctively defer to this kind of wisdom. Legacy thinking. Regularly ask yourself, how will this decision look in 5 years? What kind of person do I want to be known as? This shifts your entire decision-making framework. Pattern recognition. Study how similar situations have played out historically. When you can reference patterns that span decades or centuries, people listen differently. Strategic patience. Be willing to make investments in relationships. Skills, reputation, that won't pay off for years. This demonstrates the kind of confidence that only comes from thinking long-term. Here's what happens when you consistently apply all 7 principles over time. They compound. Each interaction builds on the last. Each demonstration of these qualities strengthens your reputation. Each strategic decision reinforces your aura of capability and wisdom. People start seeing you not just as someone who's currently successful, but as someone who's going to be successful for a long time. That's when your aura becomes truly magnetic, when people want to be associated with your trajectory, not just your current position. Let me bring this full circle. Remember the man I told you about at the beginning? The one who commanded that room without saying much? After studying these principles, I realized he wasn't doing anything supernatural. He was just applying these 7 Machiavellian principles unconsciously. The mystery that made people curious. The emotional control that made him seem unshakable. The strategic unpredictability that kept people engaged. The network of relationships he'd built across different worlds. The perfect timing of his interventions. The quiet strength that never needed to prove itself. And the long-term perspective that made every conversation feel meaningful. Here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about manipulation or deception. These principles work because they're about becoming genuinely more interesting, more reliable, more valuable to know. You're not tricking people into respecting you. You're becoming someone who deserves respect. Start with just one principle. Maybe it's strategic mystery, revealing. Less about yourself up front and letting people discover your depth over time. Or maybe it's emotional sovereignty, taking control of your reactions and responses. Pick the one that resonates most with you and practice it for 30 days. If this video opened your eyes to a different way of thinking about influence and presence, I need you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I'm going to be breaking down more classical wisdom for modern success, and you don't want to miss it. Second, drop a comment telling me which of these 7 principles you're going to start with. The act of declaring it publicly makes you more likely to follow through. Third, share this video with someone who would benefit from developing a more powerful presence. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Remember, Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about being feared or loved. It was about being respected. And respect isn't demanded. It's earned through consistent demonstration of wisdom, strength, and character. The person you become by applying these principles won't just have a powerful aura. You'll have become someone worthy of that power. I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to dive deep into the psychology of first impressions and how to make them unforgettable. Until then, start building your aura.